Vocabio. Master English your way.
With me, this was the night before I was hospitalized, just going back because I just owe her a thank you for this, where she
difficult time. I mean, when people's kids are sick and hospitalized, and I only took care of people that were kids that were
にこう履歴を見たらちょっとお待ちくださいね。で、本当であればそれでも2週間ぐらいはせめて入院しなきゃいけない。
How long will this last? How long will he be hospitalized? Is this a chronic situation?
A lot of them felt like they needed time off to just kind of regroup and make sure Claremont really was the place because
of hostilities at a moment when they've managed to literally regroup and resupply. And I think that that's one of the...
Let's collect the data and let's regroup and learn from each other. So I think this...
We're constantly trying to regroup, to recreate a kind of heroic version of ourselves.
The Republicans sort of regrouped and did better in 2020 than they had in
right as men, and they fantasize about raping women, about keeping them as sex slaves, and about
an occasion that I had fantasized about and had hoped to attend.
And the theorist is about to fantasize. You can use your time more happily, more usefully.
Physical manifestation, fantasizing about a structure that could continuously expand like a flyover with
kind of lurid fantasizing in the nation's press and elsewhere about
nature. And she continually furnishes us with services. And to just remind you, climate...
because it is so well furnished for different activities and
pleased President Roosevelt that he furnished its library and donated books for it.
And sleeping zones. The study area is furnished with a corner desk with viewing and ventilation windows.
The apartment is already almost furnished. No, you only need a carpet, a table.
On nature by decoupling wealth creation from the intensive use on nature by decoupling wealth creation from the intensive use.
Exposed a systematic decoupling of people and power. Nearly every democracy...
of a massive effort to decouple coca from cocaine and create a nutraceutical market for a...
The viewer is in fact forced to decouple visual and textual cognition in a space and time.
I do think one of the roles of government can be to enforce certain kinds of ESG reporting, how you're treating...
Easily sidestepped. They can be enforced too briefly or imposed too hastily. They can drag on.
And the Democrats who in the main passed and enforced Jim Crow laws. It was also the Democrats who found...
came down with an edict, which is still very much enforced today. The official history, very official, says...
Can the provisions of international law be enforced? As Amal has mentioned...
Now he is blogging, he's writing, podcasting, he goes around the country giving talks on.
Because also you got a job, you were a podcasting pioneer.
That's right.
And podcasting, and Starmer. On the one hand,
film, TV shows, commercials, stand-up podcasting, and with huge talent from Chris.
Trump is good for one thing, that's podcasting, but other than that. No, but it's...
Some of it might have been liquefied, creating aquifers. Recently, we found methane emerging from...
So the plasmas became gas, and gas became liquefied, and then the solid. So it is exactly... in
be to buy more American liquefied natural gas. Yeah. That's something that we already buy quite a lot of already.
Team is focused on the planning and the rework for the undock, the Starliner undock.
Where young people have more opportunities, rework and housing, and which offer some hope. I'm not sure.
On a different nature, that collected and reworked earlier essays, as well as evolving his views on cinema and montage.
Pre-modern house types. And this is another reworking of a pre-modern house. So we have a thing, and I don't know if you have it here.
and then I would rework the recipe based on that. I would send it back to them to retest.
Maybe I didn't demean myself. No, who am I kidding? Yes, I did. And
culture, love it.
I scream at everyone and demean them to the... No, I mean, so that...
I mean, all these kind of demeaning things.
Yeah.
He paid him very badly. Will...
Suffered by many, many men, and no one would demean it in that kind of way, saying, "Oh, you just watched too many Heineken adverts."
I mention that not in any way to demean Lindsay, but to point out that
actually regain their discretion, they used it to the full extent that they could.
Had to fight for that, to regain it.
So I told the story wrong. The initial
Matt talking on it. Once we regain looks like we have KU now, so if we can get a 10 count, please.
Why this happens and what can we do to regain sensitivity, both to the good things in life. So
all those stop and you can actually regain your skin. But if you have gone to a level
to basically just riff, like just improvise, and my teacher was okay with it, so I started riffing.
With those cards, you sort of improvise, and you go back to the foundation of what makes a great story.
They're very improvise in my view, but not in theirs. Because
one is it?
Right.
So,
well, normally you need an oven for pot pie.
Normally you did. I just improvised since we didn't have a.
Over the years, and then I also learned how to improvise over the years, and finally, what happens is
finish fundraising for the program, but to very much focus on
support group helped with fundraise for the construction of the attached student lounge.
Into things. But actually, if bottom up, we can fundraise and we can fulfill. I think about the fact we've funded two.
And before I knew it, I was needing to fundraise for it. And then before I knew it, I was going on medical missions to Syria.
Arranging to have everything in place so I can care for them. I've got to fundraise. I've got to do all that. It's a really, really big, tough.
College. And I was like, that was the most proud moment that my daughter thinks of me like that. And I said,
with any engineering school, any regionally accredited American engineering school, Harvey Mudd is one of
the national university in Iowa, which is accredited to the PhD level. We have the David Lynn.
These marathons are kind of really hard to accredit, and Guinness are really funny about what they will give awards to.
But the first accredited School of Architecture in North America.
Sometimes you're like going around the world and you're just being inundated and you're feeling certain ways and you don't know what's causing it, or you ate something.
The supermarkets themselves were, in many cases, inundated with floodwater, and that disrupted food.
Anything online, and immediately you get inundated with advertising that reflects that particular.
Nearly 600 years of us being inundated with ideas that dark.
Schedule appointments with them. So again, they will be inundated with that info when they arrive here on campus during orientation.
The warrior's honor was redefined, and these new rules became very important
in San Diego, so that they could begin to redefine the very meaning of public space.
And if they decide to redefine it that way, I think that's something that they could consider.
So then, that's sort of forcing us to redefine success, I think, in a certain way. But where do we begin on this, right?
Through time, we can define and redefine our dream job. Although
we're about fostering peace. We deter conflict by making sure our adversaries know they can't compete.
With birds, it's hard to deter birds for any length of time. And there was
at the top, it not only does not deter crime, it promotes crime. And the reason is because people are like,
the lions deter its predators, but the biggest advantage and problem
with birds, it's hard to deter birds for any length of time. And there was
and it typifies the design language of Patrice, the production designer.
I think so, and I think that's typified by the fact that we see a lot of big governments.
The range of autism across this spectrum.
That typifies, in my opinion, the 19th century paradigm, which
that Stoughton both typified and indeed prototyped. Constructed in 1690.
And as a result, we've seen a dwindling availability of abortion today.
Point on, joy started dwindling. Now, don't get me wrong, they were still happy on day 8.
Disaster, that's dwindling. So the way that food interacts with these different
populations of animals dwindle down to very, very low numbers, what they will do is introduce animals.
As the years go by, that number dwindled down to, sure enough, somewhere around 10 to 12.
He has an urgent meeting
at Intuit, where she's working full time now. So she needs to,
Intuit behavior, even obviously science and naturalist.
Whatever that works for you, but if I intuit myself, then I'm more likely to have it turn into an action.
Editors are brilliant people at intuiting people's insights, but I think
very specific next step. They want you to intuit how to be useful and what to do next. And
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.